Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So out of the two breweries involved in this one, it is actually only the home brewery that's featured on the channel before. We've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. Still a very much up and coming brewery in my opinion, but they've built a very good reputation for themselves. And if people were to ask me about them, I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, but they have done a number of different styles as well. Now when it comes to the away brewery, this is a brewery that I've heard very good things about. They do quite a variety of different styles, they're quite experimental from what I gather, and so yeah, definitely cool to introduce these guys to you here on the channel for the very first time. When it comes to the beer itself, this is a style that I very much enjoy, but one that you don't find all that often from the Swedish breweries in fact, and that was the main reason why I wanted to have a look at this one, as well as the two breweries having very good reputations, and it's one of the home breweries' latest releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden too. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good one, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to head to Åre in Jämtland County, which is very well known for its ski resorts, kind of up to the northwest of Stockholm I guess we could say. But we're going to have a look then at another beer from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri, so basically the Black Mountain Mountain Brewery, if you want to translate it into English. But this particular beer is called Das Collaborator. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a Doppelbock, and it's brewed in collaboration with Bryggverket, who come from Umeå, a little bit further north on the east coast. But yeah, if memory serves me correctly, this beer was released as part of the Lokalt och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden, either for April or May of 2023. I honestly can't remember in fact, but it is a Doppelbock and they will last for a wee bit, so it isn't a problem that we've left this one a month or two before reviewing it. But yeah, as you know, if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I love my big kind of brown sugary beers, the Scotch ales, the Doppelbocks, the Belgian quadruples, and the barley wines. So when I saw there was when I saw that Svartbergets were releasing a Doppelbock, I thought, you know, we have to have a little look at this one and see what it's all about. I think I was just looking through the list and thought, oh, that sounds like a Doppelbock. I opened it up and it was, so that very quickly went into the basket, of course. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the links to my other reviews that I've done from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri before, and my future reviews that hopefully I'll do from Bryggverket in the future. Very first time we're trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but we will see about doing a solo brewery beer review for them very soon. But there's also the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So yeah, just go down there, go into the homepage, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, whatever you like in this one. If you search for, or if I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, my apologies, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things, and you can of course check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well and see what's going on there. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. We'll start with Svartbergets then, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, Svartbergets Bryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Åre in Jämtland County, and the company was founded back in 2017. So the brewery was originally based in the basement of the Åre Ski Inn restaurant, and the main man behind the brewing is Philip Hafstad, who had been a home brewer for about 6 years previously, and he joined the company after a period of working out in Asia. So the restaurant is a family business, and it was founded originally back in 1980 when Arne Hafstad built the restaurant up on the hill. But at the restaurant they have 10 taps, and originally when they started brewing they had to transport the beer up the hill by bike every week. But later in 2019, owing to the success of their beers, they decided to invest more in the brewery business, and so they opened up a second and larger production facility nearby in Brewed, which has been equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and they also hired Sebastian Torneas to come in as the brewer there. But they've gradually expanded their output, and over the course of 2020 they produced around 100,000 litres, and they estimate that they could eventually produce around 350,000 litres per year in the facility in Brewed. So as I say, they're just kind of gradually building that up as time goes on. But as of June 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 65 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. Like I said to you earlier, they are best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, but they do a number of different styles as well, and they are definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. These guys are very much one of the kind of up and coming craft breweries here in Sweden, in my mind. From what I understand, the family behind this one, the Hafstad family, have some kind of connection to one of the guys involved in Stigbergets as well, actually. So yeah, I think that's maybe one of the things that's helped them be so successful from early on. You know, if they've got tips, if they've got a connection to Stigbergets, then yeah, they're going to do pretty well, I have to say. But yeah, that's, as I say, everything we can really tell you about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Bryggverket pages to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the away side of things then. We'll head a little bit north up to Umeå. So, Bryggverket were founded back in the autumn of 2013 by Pontus Enmark, Albin Stenberg, Patrick Hellström and Peter Byström. So the brewery itself is based in the Stocksbo area outside of Umeå, and the four men behind it were avid craft beer drinkers who just started homebrewing as a little bit of a hobby, and they wanted really to be part of the craft beer revolution in Sweden, as they put it. But over the years, they've continued to expand their brewing capacity and develop new recipes, and they've won many awards on the back of this. This brewery is actually quite highly decorated, but it was only very recently that I kind of discovered them. But there are so many craft breweries here in Sweden these days, it's pretty hard to keep up with them, to be quite honest with you. But in early 2019, they announced that they would enter into a partnership with Förenade Matfabrikanterna, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. But they own several food companies in the north of Sweden, and this has allowed them to develop the business and focus more on product development. So they've been a lot freer to kind of focus on their recipes and let the other company help them with their business development, if you like. But in 2023, they upgraded to a new 3,000 litre brewing system. This is nicknamed Stern, after the giant wooden moose that is built on Vithatten in Västerbotten, and it's just something that they thought was kind of pretty funny and pretty cool, so they went for the name Stern. But apparently the aim after this is to brew a lot more of the more heavy ABV beers going forward, like big imperial stouts, big barley wines and stuff like this. But yeah, I think they've brewed a lot of different IPAs and pale ales and things like that. But I know one of their most highly rated beers is actually an imperial stout. So we need to see if we can get a hold of a can of that actually at some point to review on the channel. That would be a very good one to do as our first solo brewery beer review from Bryggverket. But as of June 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 100 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and now that they have Stern in there, I'm sure that they will continue to add to that as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Bryggverket for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, it's got a shiny part on it, so the camera is going to absolutely hate this thing, because that's just what it does sometimes. But yeah, there you can see Das Collaborator, Doppelbock, 8% ABV as we mentioned, brewed at Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri in Åre, and then in collaboration with Bryggverket from Umeå. But yeah, gold top on the can with this one, 330 millilitres. I actually can't remember what I paid for this. I want to say that this one was maybe like 40 kroner actually. Kind of springs to mind. So 40 kroner is about €4, somewhere in the region of like £3.50 sterling, and maybe in the region of like $5.50 Yeah, probably in the region of like $4.50 American, something like that. So for an 8% Doppelbock, I think that is all right actually. But yeah, remember the Doppelbock beer is a lager. So the technical definition of a lager is a beer that undergoes fermentation using bottom fermenting yeast. That's low temperature fermentation. It takes happens between 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. They usually take a longer time to ferment, of course. And the Bock beers originate from the German city of Einbeck. And the reason they were called Bock is because the Einbeckers took their beers down to Munich. There was a difference in accent, so the Münchners made fun of the Einbeckers and they kind of nicknamed the beers Bock. And Bock, of course, is the word for goat in German, which is why many of these Doppelbocks that you find have the name goat on them, or have a goat symbol on them of some description. But yeah, of course, probably the most famous example of these beers would be the Ayinger Celebrator. That's probably one of the most readily available ones that you'll find across the world. But there's some really good Doppelbocks from the Munich 6 breweries, of course, the Paulaner Salvator, amongst others. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. This should be very, very nice. Go. Just let the gas out of it and we'll get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. So as I've always said, when it comes to these German lager beer styles, and as I say, pretty much with any of the Belgian and German beers, the non-American styles basically, what you want, or at least what I look for in these beers, is authenticity. How close are they to the things that you would find in Belgium and Germany? So yeah, that's what we'll be looking for here. But you can see this beer has poured pretty much as you would expect of a Doppelbock. So you've got a nice finger of, I would say, very light beige, almost fawn coloured head from this one. Some medium-sized bubbles on the surface there, a few foamier ones when you go further up, and you can see the head is a little bit bumpier just on the top there, but it looks very, very nice in terms of the head. You can see the colour of this one. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up for you guys on the camera, but this one has a very lovely sort of ruby-ish colour to it, as I said, but yeah, lovely kind of ruby-ish, dark chestnut sort of thing. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of the wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour of it as well. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that when it comes to Doppelbocks or different kinds of lager. But that said, I have had some Doppelbocks that have had adjuncts put into them recently. We had one from Olarin Panimo up in Espoo in Finland, and that was very nice actually. And there's quite a few American breweries like to experiment with this style too. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. A few bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there, and the head incidentally is fading down to be a little bit of a more kind of foamy layer. But I will point out that this beer has a little touch of natural haze to it, but it's actually very, it is actually pretty damn clear, this one, I have to say. So yeah, I like that about it for sure. So let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. I don't think we really need to say much more about the appearance of this beer, to be quite honest. So let's have a look at the aroma. Let's do this. Oh yeah, that smells pretty nice, and I'm going to say straight away, this one does come across in its aroma as being pretty authentic. So aroma wise, I mean, this one for me, it's yeah, it kind of gives you everything you'd want from the Doppelbock. You've got a nice little bit of a kind of more grainy, bready character to this one. You've got some nice brown sugar in there, little touch of hoppiness, and you've also got a wee bit of fruity character. These are the things you want from this style, of course. But yeah, let's try and break the aroma of this one down a little bit more and just describe it a little bit more kind of in depth for you. But I will say straight away, it smells very, very nice. So yeah, the backbone of the beer, you have a lovely sort of bread crusty yeah, you've got a really nice kind of bread crusty backbone to this beer. So it's like a sort of, it is very much like a sort of German rye bread crust in there. That's what I really like about this one. So you get that nice kind of fresh German rye bread crust. One of the things I always miss about living in Germany was going to the German bakery and getting some nice rye bread on the for the weekend and stuff like that. It was always great. But yeah, as I say, rye bread crust on the backbone. Nice little bit of there's a nice little bit of woodiness in this one too. But that's a very slight kind of very slight note, I would have to say. So yeah, lovely little touch of woodiness in there. A little bit of kind of vanilla and stuff too. Yeah, I get a little touch of woodiness just with it, a little bit of vanilla within the woody character. But then, yeah, above that, you've got some really nice kind of, yeah, you've got a little bit of a kind of straight up rye bread in this one, I would say. And then above that, you start to get the more kind of wholemeal, brown bready type character. Now I would also add that there's a little tiny touch of kind of woodiness within this beer. You do get a nice little bit of woody character coming out of this one. But yeah, the way that goes together is really nice. It's a very bready leaning Doppelbock, this one. You can get ones that lean a little bit more toward the brown sugary side of things. You can get ones that lean a little bit more toward the kind of grainy side of things. And in terms of the graininess in this one, it has a little touch of like Vienna malt character to it, or Vienna lager type character, because Vienna malt always has this little bit more kind of dry, rye bready and bread crusty sort of thing. I'm getting a little bit out of that, so I would not be surprised if there is a little touch of Vienna malt in this one. Really would not be surprised by that. But as I say, rye bread crust, sweet rye bread, kind of wholemeal brown bread, and then above that you have some really nice kind of brown sugary characters coming out of the beer. So for me, as I say, for me, the sort of, for me, the kind of brown sugary characters that you're getting out of this one, there is a little bit of leathery character to this one, but not overly much. And as I say, with Doppelbocks, some breweries like to give them a bit of a longer wort boil, and when you do that, you get the more leathery brown sugary notes, and you get a bit more complexity to it. But yeah, the way that this one goes together in that sense, you've got a little bit of the leatheriness, you've got a little bit of toasty brown sugar in there, and then you've got a nice kind of, you do have a nice little bit of a kind of sweeter brown sugar as well, but it's a little bit of that, it's got a wee touch of that treacly molasses sort of thing, a little bit of toasty brown sugar, and then also a more kind of leathery sort of thing as well. But yeah, a wee bit of a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of this one too. But yeah, the malt base kind of gives you everything that you would want from this style. That's definitely fair to say with this one, so gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the sort of malty and yeasty side of things with this beer. On the hoppy side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. One of the really common hops to use in Doppelbocks in Germany is Northern Brewer. It gives you these lovely red fruity notes, but we'll come to that in a minute. But yeah, what you'll get out of this one on the green component side of things is a little touch of earthiness, a little bit of smooth earthiness, and a little bit of herbal character as well. And the smoothness, for me, the German noble hops compared to the Czech, the Czech ones which are a bit more spicy, and the Slovenian ones which are very, very smooth. The German ones give you a bit of smoothness, but also a real brightness in terms of the grassiness and floral character. So yeah, for me, you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness in here, you've got a good little bit of herbal character as well, but then you start to get nice floral aromaticity, and you also have some really nice kind of, you do have some really nice kind of just a little touch of grassy zestiness there at the front of the nose too. Obviously, you can let a Doppelbock sit for a wee while and mellow out, and some of the hoppier character will drop off. It's kind of up to you. Like, I mean, the Germans drink these beers fresh straight out of the tap, so yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. But that's a little summary of your green component with this one. So let's just round off the aroma with a wee look at the fruity side of things. So for me, the fruity side of the beer. It's quite, it's interesting, this one, because you've got a little touch of like a kind of juicy plum coming out of this beer. So yeah, nice little bit of juicy plum. There's a little bit of yeah, so nice little bit of juicy plum, a little bit of so a wee bit of juicy plum, a little bit of fig, of course, as well, and quite a wee bit of black currant coming out of this one. So yeah. Yeah, so juicy plum, a little bit of a kind of figgy note in there, and then a nice little bit of as I say, just a little bit of black currant or something, maybe a wee bit of blackberry just sitting on top of it as well. But as I said, overall the aroma on this one is very, very authentic compared to what you're going to get from the well-known German examples of this style. I mean, the Augustiner Maximator, the Paulaner Salvator. I'm forgetting the names of the other ones now, the Hackshore and all of these guys. But yeah, try some of the Munich 6 Doppelbocks as well as the Eyinger Celebrator. Those are some really good examples of them. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But I think it is about time that we try this one now. So yeah, this is Das Collaborator, 8% Doppelbock from Svartbergets in Åre and Bryggverket up in Umeå. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's pretty damn nice, actually. I'm going to say straight away, this is one of the kind of drier and more grainy Doppelbocks that I've come across from. Yeah, this is one of the drier and more grainy Doppelbocks I think I've come across. But it sweetens up a little bit more the further into the aftertaste you go. It is very nice though, and it gives you all the flavours you would expect. So I think this is a well done take on the style for sure. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I think this is pretty solid. I mean, if they brew this beer more than once, they're only going to get better and better at it. I would say, yeah, this one, some of the German ones I think tend to be a little bit smoother than this. This one has a wee bit more kind of dryness and grainy bread crusting character to it. And that, I'd say, would be the main difference between this one and the actual German ones. But other than that, it's very, very authentic actually. So, and as I say, that's what I want from these beers. But yeah, let's break this beer down though and just describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So, in terms of the the middle third of your palate, then we'll start there as we always do. The backbone of the beer. Yeah, the backbone of the beer. You've got this lovely kind of, as we say, you've got a lovely sort of just slightly slightly toasty and dry rye bready bread crust, but it feels very fresh. It does almost feel like you would, as if you've got it straight out of the bakery and it's still got a wee bit of the kind of flour left on it. You do have a wee bit of that kind of vibe going on with this beer, so that's really nice. But as you move further forward on that middle third of the palate, you get a wee touch of woodiness coming out of this one, but again, that's very, very minimal. But then above the bread crusty layer, you get a kind of layer of what feels like a kind of dry rye bread actually. So that's kind of nice. I do wonder if there's a little bit of rye malt in this one actually. It does. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. It says it contains wheated malt as well. I don't think that's very common either in Germany. I don't think it's common at all to use wheat in Doppelbocks actually. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they have to use the Reinheitsgebot meant that they always had to use barley malt, actually. But then again, you do have things like Hefeweizen, so I could well be wrong. I'm not sure about the technicalities of it, but there we go. But yeah, it's probably the wheat malt that's giving you the big breadiness in this one, actually. But as I say, above the bread crust, you have this layer of what feels very much like a kind of drier rye bread, and that's what I wondered. I did wonder if there's a little bit of rye malt in this one. If there's not, I suspect that it will be some kind, there might be a little bit of Vienna malt, or maybe one of the lighter carafas that's been used in this. But if it was carafa, then the chances are it would be more black in terms of colour rather than the chestnutty mahogany that we have. But anyway, always interesting to think about these little quirks. But above the above the kind of rye bready layer, like I was saying, you start to get the more wholemeal brown bready character out of this one, and it's quite a nice, dense, but still very, very smooth layer. You've got a little bit of nuttiness to that layer, which is great. So yeah, lovely little touch of nuttiness in there. You've got the nice kind of wholemeal bready notes, but yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really very nice. Yeah, it's good. As I say, you've got that rye bready layer, the wholemeal brown bready note, little touch of nuttiness within there, and then above that you can feel a little bit of the wheat in this one. You can feel that there's, on top of the brown bread, there's a slightly denser thing, which is what you normally get from wheat, and then above that you start to get the brown sugar. So let's have a little look at the brown sugary layer on that middle third of your palate. So yeah, above the brown sugars, you start to get a little touch of for me, above the brown sugars, you get a little touch, or on the base layer of the brown sugar, sorry, you get a nice little touch of a kind of roasty, toasty, actually quite well fired brown sugary note coming out of this beer. And you can feel that that gets a bit drier and drier the further into the aftertaste you go. Now above the roasty and toasty brown sugars, you've got a more kind of, you can feel there is a little bit of there's like a circle in the middle of your palate there where you've got a little bit of a sweeter kind of caramelly note, but as you go into the dead centre of your palate, you have a little touch of that more treacly molasses sort of thing. But the brown sugars in this beer are quite roasty and toasty and actually quite dry. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in that sense, this is definitely a more bready and dry example of the Doppelbock. Whereas, you know, German beer for me is always, you know, the Pilsners of course are the exception because they're a little bit more kind of crisp and dry, but most German beer for me is always very kind of smooth. This one just has a little bit more dryness to it than the examples of this style you're going to find down in Germany. But yeah, this is pretty damn good, I have to say. Yeah. So on the I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate on this beer. We can move on to the back third of the palate, but as I always say, the back third of the palate gives you similar flavours to the middle third, but just in different intensities. And as I always say, generally speaking, further back on the palate, you get the more bitter and drier flavours. As you go further forward, the things start to sweeten up. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there, a little bit of a rye bread, a little bit of dryness and stuff, a wee bit of wholemeal brown bread on that, and then yeah, the way that that goes together is nice. But you've got the base of that, you have got the base layer on that back third of your palate. You've got some really nice kind of grainy, dry, well-fired bread crust as we had before. You've got the rye bready layer, which is a little bit drier, but it feels a little bit lighter and more airy. And then you've got that wholemeal brown bready layer, which feels lighter and more airy as well. And you can feel a little bit of the wheat, the kind of dryness from the wheat, and the densifying character of the wheat on the top of that back third of the palate. And then above everything else, you start to get the the more yeasty characteristics out of this one. So yeah. yeah, so the more yeasty characteristics you have in there, it has this very bright, kind of it has this, yeah, this very bright, kind of like it, but still more kind of dense, farmhousey, brown bready character to it. There's a little bit of woodiness and a little bit of graininess and stuff there, and you have it's kind of wrapped in this sort of toasty, brown sugary note there. So yeah, that's the yeasty character that sits above everything else. But definitely the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and it squashes together actually. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. And so yeah, a nice little bit of really dry, slightly well-fired earthiness almost. The hoppy character you get in this one is actually quite dry in that sense, but as you move further forward, a little bit of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you have more of a, you do have a little bit more of a nice kind of floral aromatic sort of thing, but that takes a bit of a back seat to the earthiness in this beer in fact. But round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a lighter sort of grassy character to it as well, and yeah, I think that is quite nice with this one. But I would say the earthiness in this beer is going to surprise me a little bit. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a kind of Belgian hop or something that had been used in here as well, because the earthiness, as I say, is so prominent. But it could just be the type of malts and stuff like that promoting some of the earthy characters too. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the green component. Let's round off with a wee look at the front third of your palate and the fruitiness then. So at the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build-up in there, which I think goes together really nicely. So yeah, nice little bit of bready build-up in there, a wee bit of rye bread underneath and a bit of a sweeter wholemeal brown bread there. The base of that front third of your palate, more of a kind of rye bready character, as I said, and then you've got a little bit of wholemeal kind of brown bread on top of that as well. But yeah, above everything else, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And yeah, I like the way that that fruity side of things comes out. So yeah, let's just look at the fruity flavours to round off. So yeah, when you take the fruity flavours in, you've got a really nice kind of, yeah, you have a really nice sort of, almost like slightly plummy flavour. Not too sharp, actually more kind of juicy. So you've got a nice little bit of plummy flavour out of this one. Underneath that you do get a little touch of the drier prune, and then in the base you've got a little bit of that kind of nice dry sultana, you know, dry white green grapey character coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that that goes together I think is really very, very nice. As you move further forward, you start to get a little touch of figginess as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. So a nice little bit of figginess in there, and there's a wee bit, there's maybe a little bit of pear in there as well actually. So a nice little bit of pear and figginess, and as you move into the kind of front half of the front third of your palate, the fruits are just a little bit juicier and a little bit sharper. But yeah, there's a wee bit of like blackcurrant underneath and a little bit of blackberry sitting on top of that. I'm pretty sure it's Northern Brewer that's going to be used in this one. That's a very popular hop for these Doppelbocks. But likewise, English Bramling's Cross actually can work quite well with German Doppelbocks as well. And if they have used a bit of Bramling's Cross, that might explain the slightly more prominent earthy character. It's quite a very popular hop to use with English barley wines, in fact. And it would also explain a little bit of the kind of drier fruity character that's in there too. So maybe they've used two hops, maybe a little bit of English Bramling's Cross and a wee bit of German Northern Brewer. But there's of course other candidates too, just always interesting to think about. But yeah, interesting stuff for sure. But as I say, this is, I think it's a really nicely done Doppelbock, this one. The thing that sets it apart from the German ones for me is the kind of almost rye bready character and the bit more bread crusty, dry character that it has too. But I like this. I do like this one. I think this is a very well done Doppelbock actually. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, just to round off, I would say that this beer is kind of pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied for me, but it is a lager, so it is going to be lighter in that sense. So it's pushing the thicker part of the lager side of things for me. So yeah, in that respect, the beer is, in that respect, for me, the beer is quite, I would say that overall it's got a little bit of an oily mouthfeel to it, but at the same time it's quite clean, which you want from the lager beers. So it has that. The mouthfeel is pretty typical of the style, as I say, but one of the more drier examples of the style. In terms of IBUs, I think this one is 20 or 25, which is normal for the style. It could be, I think I'd probably be tempted to say 25. This one does have a wee bit more earthiness and dryness into the aftertaste. The malt base, like we said, has a bit of roasty toastiness to it, smooth, kind of brown bready characters with a little bit of sweetness, and a little bit of a drier sweet character from the brown sugars on top. Then the fruitiness is really nice, quite juicy but slightly oily at the same time too. But yeah, I really like how this one goes together actually. A very good Doppelbock in my mind, just a little bit on the more kind of bready and dry end of the spectrum, but nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. Been really impressed with this. This was the Das Collaborator, an 8% Doppelbock brewed at Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri in Åre, in collaboration with Bryggverket from Umeå, both of which are here in Sweden, of course. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Svartbergets and from Bryggverket, and we will see about returning to these breweries at some point in the fair near future. But until then, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out the brewery social media, and I'll see you guys in another review. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.